Donald Trump ran the kind of the oldest trick in the right-wing playbook. He said that everybody's problems are caused by a vulnerable group of people that he blamed over and over and over again. But these members, in their campaigns, stuck to their progressive values and also spoke directly to working people to build an electoral majority. They said it's not immigrants that are driving up housing prices, it's Wall Street. It's not trans people that are causing your worsening healthcare, it's Big Pharma. These are the members that are authentic, that are proud, that are from their communities, that have promised to deliver to their communities and are unafraid of standing up to the real powers that be. And that's the core of who the Democratic Party is. And everybody knows here, I know everybody covering this is talking about the Democratic Party's soul searching in this moment. And we should be doing that soul searching. And you find that soul in these new members of Congress. If we were more like the people that were calling for change, that are telling the Democratic Party they want us to be champions for everyday people, for working people, and for civil rights, then that's how I think we build the lasting majority and the big tent that we need to be able to deliver health care as a human right, to be able to drive down housing costs, to make sure that people don't get screwed over at work and price gouged at the grocery store. If we want to build that kind of a majority, then we should listen to these new members of Congress. Everybody in America and members of the press should hear how these new members of Congress are unafraid to get back to the core vision of what the Democratic Party is all about. They are the arsonists, but then they blame the firefighters for the flames, time after time after time. And the question for the Democratic Party is, what do you do in response to it? Because that's not going to change, and that's only going to get worse under the Trump administration. And the Democratic Party's response, I think, has to very clearly be for working people as the core of who it is that we are. For working and working class people and poor people and for everyday people. We should not abandon being the party of civil rights. We should be standing up for the rights of every single person, as Representative elect McBride just laid out. But that's what people need to hear from us first. So I think our job is to make it really clear who we stand up for and that we're willing to stand up against the powers that be for those everyday people. And that's what these new members have been able to do so effectively in their campaigns. And I think that's what the future of a majoritarian, progressive, principled, and popular Democratic Party can be. Let me be clear. The right wing and these so-called Trump border policies have nothing to do with keeping people safe. This is about ripping families apart, arresting immigrants, and blaming someone for our problems so we can ignore the fact that Trump and these right-wing officials are grifters and that Trump is taking millions of dollars from foreign governments to enrich himself. His main policy achievement had nothing to do with the border or migration, but cutting taxes for the rich and the biggest corporations in this country. All the while, the collateral damage is kids being separated from their moms, people in cages, which we can't deny. Mr. Homan sitting here before us said at the CPAC convention, and I quote, he doesn't give a about that. And desperate people living in the shadows,
that is
undocumented.
A lie. You just said something that wasn't true.
Mr. Chairman, would you please stop the witness from interrupting our members?
Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, received a staggering $2 billion from Saudi Arabia for his brand new private equity firm. And while Hunter Biden never had any say over U.S. policy, Mr. Kushner got this $2 billion 6 months after working in the White House as a senior advisor on Middle East policy. Mr. Kushner had no experience in private equity. In fact, he was so inexperienced that Saudi officials tried to block the transfer of the money until the Crown Prince overruled them. While working at the White House, Mr. Kushner pushed through a $110 billion weapons sale for Saudi Arabia. I'm finishing my point and then I'm happy to talk about it. He then defended the deal in the wake of the Saudi government's murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And while this may all just be a coincidence, there's many questions. Like, was any of this money passed along to Trump? Was the Saudi money a thank you for a job well done in the White House? Was Jared given this money in exchange for anything else? Or did someone with no experience just have a lucky payday? These are questions we should have answers to. So if you thought that impeaching Trump was political theater, then what would you call this? This is a disgrace. And I hope that someday top Republican officials will find some integrity. In the case of Trump, because you fear his social media wrath, right-wing officials will deny all evidence against Trump come hell or high water. But in the case of President Joe Biden, you decided to start the impeaching now and figure out the whole evidence thing later. And you still haven't figured it out. I want to see whether you'd raise your hand. Should Hunter and Trump both be held accountable if they are found guilty on any of their indictments? Raise your hand if you think that equal justice under the law applies and Trump should be held accountable. I think it is worse than embarrassing that Republicans won't raise their hands. They refuse to say that equal justice under the law should apply to everyone. And when you step back and think about it,
then what about
it's
the
kind of
January
scary.
6th defendants?
It's
Chairman,
kind of
point of
scary.
order.
This double standard insults the institutions of Congress that people fought and died to build. This impeachment hearing clearly is not about justice. And I still cannot understand from the Republican majority why they think that DACA recipients who are paying billions of dollars in taxes to pay for health care programs should not have health insurance and should instead go to the emergency room. Providing people health care isn't a reward. It's not charity. It's what we do because people go out and work and participate in society. And when my seniors need access to Medicare, I don't say this is a reward or this is charity. I say, thank you. This is what we owe to one another. And we should do the same thing no matter who you are or where you were born in this country. It is not a reward. We should just be doing the right thing.